right, y'all. If you don't know where to find it, welcome to the YouTube channel. This is my podcast debut on the D1 Sectional G preview of the Wisconsin Wrestler Podcast. Enjoy.
Welcome to the Wisconsin Wrestler Podcast with your co-hosts Teague Fenwick and Steve Lurkwood.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another edition of the Wisconsin Wrestler Podcast. I'm your host, Teague Fenwick, alongside my co-host, Steve Lurkwin.
Teague, sorry about that. I had a little delay. I didn't want to start that off right there. But yeah, as always, just excited to do this. And I can't believe we're 3/4 of the way through already. In 21 days from tonight, 22 days until the start of the season. It's crazy.
Yeah, this week is our last week recording the D1 previews, and once you get to November, it's just gets to be so pumped up for wrestling season. It feels good that we're in the month that it's going to be starting now. We will be talking about
daylight doesn't start till 8, and the sun goes down at 3. So it's what else is there to do other than wrestling, right?
Yeah, I woke up at 5:30 this morning and forgot about daylight savings time for a minute. And tonight we're going to be talking about D1 Sectional G, and we have a couple of guests on to help us give some insight into that sectional. Introducing first, he's been coaching at Bradley Tech for 8 years. This is his 5th year as the head coach of the co-op. Introducing Shane Kennelly. Shane, glad to have you on.
Nice to be here, gentlemen. This is one of my most proudest days as a Wisconsinite. I originated from Chicago. When I got my first Wisconsin driver's license, it was a big deal. And now coming on the Wisconsin Wrestler Podcast, I feel that I've made it. I'm a young fellow with a story to tell, and thank you for having me.
Oh, hey, we're glad to have you on as well. And our second guest, this is his 4th season as the head coach of West Allis Central, Eric Viss. Also glad to have you on, man.
Yeah, guys, excited to be here. It's awesome what you guys are doing for Wisconsin wrestling, so just excited to, be able to give my 2 cents and be a part of it.
Thank you. It should be a fun one tonight. The first regional that we're going to be looking at is the Pewaukee Regional, and the first team that we have up is Arrowhead, who won the regional last year with 244.5 points. At team sectionals, they beat Whitnall Greendale 56-24. At team state, they beat Holman 38-37 and lost to McGuanago 42-27 in the semifinals. From that team last year, they returned 10 of their starters and 156.5 points. They do lose Jonah Luther, who qualified for state at 126. Keegan O'Toole, a 4-time state champ. Not much else that I can say about him that people haven't already heard about. Adam Polzinski, who qualified for state at 170, and Jeffrey Vanderstill, who qualified at 195. But returning 4 state finalists this year, they're bringing back Mitch Messenbrink, who won a classic matchup at 138 in the finals last year. Jack Ganos, who was the runner-up at 145. Noah Mulvaney, who capped off a great freshman year with a second-place finish at 152, and Mason Deal, who was the state champ at 182. And the one thing that I have to give Arrowhead credit for, you guys, is they always have been pretty star-studded. They've had their share of great wrestlers, but I think what they've gotten more success on the state level now is because they've really built up that depth. It's not just 5 good or great wrestlers anymore. They have 14 guys that can go out there and compete. I think that's why we're seeing them improve as a team these last few years.
Yeah, Teague, it's Arrowhead. What else do you say? They've just put out a great product on the mat, and most of us coaches would be excited just to have 4 state qualifiers returning. They're pumped. They got 4 finalists returning, and you throw in there Eric along with those 4 guys coming back. They did have Nate Druckery at 120 pounds, and he took 3rd. He was 1 match from state. So Eric, they got a good chunk that's returning.
Yeah, like you said, you don't have to say much more than just Arrowhead, right? It's got the long tradition of them being pretty darn good, right? A bunch of hammers, and then, like you said, anytime you return 4 state finalists, the 4 guys looking for a state championship next year, plus, I know they have a couple good incoming freshmen this year as well. I can't think of the names off the top of my head, but I know that there's a couple. And there always is every year at Arrowhead, right? It seems like there's always somebody when it was O'Toole winning a state championship. I think Ganos was state finals his freshman year. Messenbrink, like all those guys. You see it every year. They have a stud coming in as a freshman every year. And then they're in the room with guys like Messenbrink and Mulvaney and, all the studs they have in there. You can't help but get better in there. So yeah, Arrowhead just long tradition of being really good. I can't think of their head coach's name off the top of my head, but I know he was an assistant under Messenbrink for a long time, so he's pretty ingrained in that program too, and knows what it takes. He's been there a while.
And I'll say that to start out, this is the cream of the crop of our sectional. This is who everybody is chasing and competing with. They represented our sectional last year at the team state, and we're all trying to get them. You guys listed the names. Obviously, they're all there. This is a deep team. They're well-funded. They're well-traveled. They got a tough schedule. And what I notice about them is they really love and they care for each other. They have a good brotherhood over there. A lot of them train at AWA. I mean, it's a Ben's alma mater, so there's a perfect feeder right there. And these kids have grown up wrestling with each other, and you can tell in the Doomies they care about it. And I mean, they'll run through a wall for each other, and that makes them a tough, dangerous team to beat. And I'm proud to have them in our sectional. Hopefully, we want to be competing with them soon. That's the goal.
And guys, I'm going to jump in here, Teague. I didn't know if you had something more to add to Arrowhead, but you guys, if you've heard the podcast before, I like to throw in some trivia. I always try to stump Teague. Teague never tries to stump me because I won't get any of them right. But I'm sorry to do it so early in the podcast, but this is just where it happens to fall right away. And Teague, I know that you are founder and president of the Keegan O'Toole fan club. So I'll go ahead and start off with your point.
I'll sign up.
Keegan O'Toole, obviously a 4-time state champ. We can probably relive those and talk about him for days. But he had here's my question for you, Teague. What weight class did he win state at when he was a freshman, and who did he beat?
All right, I'm running through all 4. I think I can run through all 4 years almost.
Nice. Easy one.
Freshman year, I think he won. It was 7-5 against Tristan Jenny at 120.
Wow.
And
what
Jenny
weight
went from Stoughton. It was at 120 because his progression, I think, went 120, 132, 145. He jumped 2 weight classes every year. Sophomore year, he beat, I think it was Severson from DC Everest, 16-3. Junior year, he beat Meckler from Stoughton. And then this year, he beat Coleman Carl. And Carl actually did pretty good in that match, too. It was 4-1, I think, in the second period, and then got caught in a cradle, of course. But there we go. 1 for 1 on the early trivia.
I remember when I was in high school wrestling at Central, Keegan O'Toole actually he had been, I don't know, kindergarten maybe. When he started out wrestling, he started in the West Allis, West Pewaukee, youth wrestling club, before he went to Askren. And him and, if you guys know Peyton Mako from Hale, they would go everywhere together and just win everything when they were 6, 7, 8 years old. So I think I just kind of could see the writing on the wall for those guys.
Hey, can I share something about Keegan before we move on? When I first started getting on the club scene in Wisconsin, I went to a free clinic out at Askren's, and they gave us this little Bible of all his moves. And he said, pick a page and name out a move. And Keegan was able to hit every one of these on command. He has his technique down, and he's a stand-up guy. I brought a few kids out to the academy. They came, they tried to take him down right away. They were nowhere near where he's at, but he wrestled with him. At the end of the day, he gave him some singlets and stuff. So he's just an all-around great representation of the sport.
That's good to hear.
In fairness to your guy, Shane, there's not many wrestlers in all of Wisconsin history that are near Keegan's level. So
I was appreciated. They had the tenacity to walk in there, kind of pick out the biggest guy. You walked right up to him and say, "Hey, Keegan, come on, we're going takedowns." So,
I mean, that's how you get better, man. Go against the best.
That's true.
The next team that we have up here is Sussex Hamilton, who placed 7th in the regional with 79 points. They return 6 of their starters and 46 of those points, and they'll be led by returning sectional place winners Tyler Moore and Max Birch, along with Sam Burnt.
Yeah, Sussex Hamilton, really when I think about them, and just being, when I wrestled, we were in the Greater Metro, so we would wrestle against Hamilton, and, kind of seeing them around. They come to the STEC tournament that we host at Central. So seeing them every year, they just have a bunch of tough kids, like, wherever they may fall, like at the regional or, winning, losing matches, whatever it is, it's usually like tough matches, and, their kids just, they grind out matches, and, it's going to be a tough 6-minute battle every time you're going against somebody from Sussex.
And I had the same 2 kids written down at you. They took 3rd at the sectional at 106 and 132, and they're coming back as a sophomore and junior, so they got something to build off there. And I know a few weeks ago they were looking for a coach, because I had a few people talk to me asking about the job. So hopefully they found somebody, and it seems like a good place with some resources that if you invest some time that you could build there.
Yeah, they got nice facilities and stuff there for sure. Definitely, if you get the right person in there as the coach, I think they could be a place you could do really well.
The next team that we have up here is Muskego, who placed 5th in the regional with 148.5 points. They return 10 of their starters and 117.5 of those points. They do lose state qualifier Alex Winthizer, who qualified at 126, but they bring back a couple of state qualifiers in Austin Elger at 132 and Evan Hucksdorf at 160, along with a couple more wrestlers who placed 3rd at sectionals.
Yeah, a couple of those guys, that placed 3rd at sectionals. Matt Kinsell, 113 pounds, freshman last year. He lost 9-7 to Ryan Paulos from Whitnall Greendale in the semis. He took 3rd, so he was one match away from state. Also, Emmett Bach, at 285 pounds, he lost to a Whitnall Greendale guy as well. Luke Lernath, I believe is how you say his name, but that was 1-0 in the semis. So you had 2 guys there super close to being at the big dance down in Madison. And you mentioned Hucksdorf. I saw that earlier. We were just talking about Coleman Carl and how tough of a wrestler he is. Hucksdorf took Coleman Carl and lost in a 1-0 battle down at the state wrestling tournament.
And Muskego is a team I like. They're traditionally, since I've been in Wisconsin, a strong team. I followed them closely before I became the head coach at Tech. There was Craig Bevilacqua, and he actually gave up the job to me when his son Parker started wrestling for Muskego. And he went to state and placed for them, so I followed their team. And I was impressed with their sectional run. At the 132-pounder, he lost in the finals at sectionals, but he went through state and he made the blood round, where my guy who was a senior that beat him was 0-1. So, he was right there from placing. That'll be a great experience for him to build on for next year. And Hucksdorf at 160, he was in my guy had a senior who lost about 1 point to him in that second place match. So that kid, he went out, he got it at the end, he gritted through it. I know O'Toole was the biggest guy cheering for him. They were practice partners, and I think putting in that time, getting high quality training partners, and the schedule that they wrestle really pays off for those kids at the end of the year. They got a big staff of coaches, so that's a team who they should always be somebody that you're looking out for.
Yeah, Muskego is another traditionally tough team in the southeastern area of the state. Thinking back to the days of Derek Olson and Schirkenbach and Roland Dunlap, all those guys. They've had some really good teams, and like you guys talked about, those a couple returning state qualifiers, and then a bunch of guys that were sectional placers. Right, they're really close, and a lot of them are young, right? Like freshmen, sophomores, juniors with that experience coming back, and they've had full varsity seasons under their belt. So they're going to be a tough team on that side that I think could potentially push Arrowhead a little bit.
The next team that we'll be looking at here is New Berlin West Eisenhower. They placed 6th in the regional with 99 points. They return 10 of their starters. They do lose Donovan Acevedo, who placed 5th at heavyweight last year, but they return a state qualifier in 220-pounder Noah Nieberly and also sectional place winner Nico Vink.
Guys, this is the biggest thing I noticed when I looked at Eisenhower. They returned 10, but 7 of those guys last year were freshmen. So those guys all were on the circuit last year, and now they're going to be sophomores, and that's going to be huge for this team.
I have like a interesting rivalry kind of with New Berlin because one, they're in our conference, and two, my assistant coach from high school, Brian Wojciechowski, is one of the co-head coaches at New Berlin, and also my cousin is a junior on New Berlin's wrestling team. So kind of like a weird rivalry when we get to wrestle them. It's cool, like to go against my old coach and then also be coaching against my cousin is interesting. But yeah, another team that they had a ton of freshmen like all over their roster last year. I think they had like 19 or 20 freshmen out for wrestling last year. So definitely something to build off of. They, didn't lose too many people. Got a returning state qualifier, and they're always a tough team, always in really good shape. So I think they'll definitely improve upon what they've done in the last couple of years.
Yeah, New Berlin's definitely a team that could help to build too. They're 220 coming back. Noah Nieberly, I noticed that he's going to be with 3 returning state qualifiers now because Brady Mako is going to come over with that West Allis Hale. So now he's, you think you're 2 coming back, he's going to have to fight for that spot. So hopefully he's pushing himself there. And this is another team. I mean, a lot of the teams in this conference are from very affluent areas where I feel for some of the rural poor of Wisconsin. I've listened to some of the earlier podcasts. I know all that is out there. We got some city poor and suburbans, and a lot of these schools have resources where if the right person gets in there and you get these kids out, then you're going to make some magic happen with the hard work.
Looking at next here, we have Pewaukee, who was the runner-ups in the regional with 190 points. They returned 13 of their starters from that team. They do lose Joe Sklenar, who placed 6th at 170, but they returned 4 state qualifiers in Andrew Martin at 106, 120-pounder Jacob Brunner, 145-pounder Noah Martin, and John Moore, who qualified at 195.
Yeah, real close to getting down to state. 126-pound was Nate Carreros as well. He doesn't return, but they almost had another qualifier there at state. But T-Gus taking a look at Slender down at state. Check this out. He wrestled 6 times. Listen to these results. You might as well, get your fill down at state. And I think 6 is the maximum amount of times you can wrestle 2 times a day. But check out these scores. First round he won 1-0. Second round lost 3-2. Third round he won 3-1. The fourth round, he won. He won 5-1. Fifth round, sudden victory, 3-1, and then for his 5th place match, lost 6-4 in sudden victory. So get this: 3 of his matches down there were sudden victory, and 2 of them were 1-point matches. So crazy. Not a guy that likes to, he might as well, like I said, keep things interesting for coach.
And speaking of coach, that's why Pewaukee is going to be one of my favorite teams to watch. When I was a young coach coming up in Wisconsin, Bevilacqua told me to watch Coach Kurth because he got the most, he thought, out of his kids, out of anybody in the state. He pours his heart and soul into it. I've done some research on him because he was a Milwaukee legend. He did the Milwaukee Pulaski team in a Scholes Middle School. Who I'm trying to replicate the stuff he did about 20 years ago and try to get that success again. So I looked to him for a lot of guidance. As far as the team goes, Andrew and Noah Martin are tough. You better be ready for 6 minutes and bring your lunch pail when you're wrestling against them. They're technically sound. They got motors. And my favorite one to watch is Jacob Brunner. He qualified last year's state as a freshman, and he's just a kid who's a mat rattler. I've been seeing him since he was really little, trying to practice and all this stuff, and he's a kid who I wouldn't be surprised to really see improve over these next few years because he puts in the work.
Yeah, Pewaukee is always super tough. That's our conference as well, and we've had some battles with them. But yeah, like you said, Coach Kurth is awesome. He's super intense. He might rub some people the wrong way, but he definitely gets, like you said, the most out of the kids that he has. Pewaukee, I think they're going to be another super tough team on that side. Another team that could potentially push Arrowhead for the number 1 spot on that side of the regional.
Who is that real tough guy from a couple of years ago, 95 or 220? He was a 2-time, I think he was a 2-time state champ. What was that guy's name?
Jacob Roshka.
Yeah, there you go. Yep.
Yeah.
They had Blaze Beltran too. That was a fun guy to watch.
Finals Beltran he's my cousin. So.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. Wow. So he's actually wrestling again at Eau Claire. He went to Duluth. He was playing football, and just kind of fell out there and transferred to Eau Claire, and now he's switched from football back to wrestling. So that's exciting for him.
Yeah, they got a nice staff. It should be good.
Eric, it seems like you're related to everybody over there in the suburb of Milwaukee. I'm from a small town. I'm from a small town. They joke around that we're related to everybody. I'm kind of you're breaking that mold here a little bit.
My family has a lot of deep roots in wrestling. So pretty much everybody in my family has wrestled at one point or another. So.
I know Beltran ended up on the wrong side of a classic heavyweight finals match a few years ago. I think, it was Cleaver that got the last second throw on him.
That was a wild match. That was wild.
Yeah, that's Exhibit A, is why everyone needs to stay for every single finals match. Give the big guys some love.
Try not to park in a big garage and don't leave early.
The last 2 seconds of the state tournament was like the most exciting that year.
Yeah. And we got 3 teams left in this regional. We have the 3 Waukesha teams. The first one that we're looking at is Waukesha North, who placed 8th with 59 points. They return 7 of their starters and 39 of those points. And they'll be led by Elijah Zerbel, who is a returning sectional qualifier.
Yeah, Shane and Eric, I'll let you guys take away as far as Waukesha North and what they have and what they have coming back, but I'm going to give myself a shameless plug and promotion. This is Waukesha North is where I started my wrestling career when I was student teaching there, and with Greg Packowitz and actually Dale Lobel, who did Sectional I previews now at Whitefish Bay. We had him on last time for the preview, but I got to coach with those 2 great guys over there for the North Stars.
Excellent. So then Steve, that's another school with the beautiful facilities. They got a nice, huge gym. Their wrestling room is nice. And I'll say right now they're probably looking up at the other 2 Waukesha schools. And I don't know if they got open enrollment in there, and they're just going to have to fight to build some youth and get it in, because that's another thing. If they get some resources and get the kids, I'm not sure how their school system works, where you can go. But I'll say they're probably looking up at South and West and should be looking to catch them.
Yeah, I don't know how the system works out there either, and to be honest, I don't know a whole lot about Waukesha North. But I think if, like you said, they have the resources out there, they could build it up, and that could potentially be like watching North, South, and West go at it every year. Could be really exciting for them.
Mm-hmm. The next team that we have up is Waukesha South, who is 3rd in the regional with 184.5 points. They're returning 11 of their starters and 124.5 points. They'll be led by Lucas Ryan, who qualified for state at 106, and also sectional place winner Corey Wollenberg, and 4 other sectional qualifiers.
Yeah, you look at Ryan, and then Waisley, and then Wollenberg. That's the first 3 guys in our lineup last year. That's 80-plus wins coming back right off the get-go. 5.5 points behind the second-place team. This is a team on the rise. Waukesha South in the 90s when I was coaching there at Waukesha North, they were at Team State 5 different times under Coach Hine, great guy, and runner-ups in 1992. Just a great program, great history there. So it's good to see them, putting this kind of program together. And like you said, when I was there at Waukesha North, it was North and South were the 2 strong programs, and West has a lot of great individuals. So you're exactly right. You get these 3 schools, and I can only imagine they all get their numbers up. It'd be kind of like earlier, Teague, you and I talked about Janesville Parker and Craig and how intense those dual meets are. All 3 of these programs get their numbers up, and I bet you, man, they should make it a what would you call that? A try and duel each other all in the same gym.
Yeah.
And
the Waukesha trophy.
There you go.
No. Yeah, South is a great program. They're definitely really coming on strong. Coach Green has been there a while. He does a really great job. And like you talked about, their 3 little guys coming back that are all really tough. I think that has a lot to do with they have a coach there, Billy Proknewski, who was a state champ for Waukesha South and then wrestled at, I believe, like George Mason University, and helps out with like Fargo, Greco, and stuff like that. So having him in the room, and he was a little guy. I think he was a 106-pound state champ his senior year, maybe 113. So having him in the room with those guys probably helps their lighter weights out a lot.
And I like Waukesha West, or South, sorry. They're a team that wrestles hard. Don't be surprised. I don't know this person personally, Lucas Ryan, but I heard that he will be wrestling for a different school, that he transferred, so don't be surprised to see him. still in the sectional at a top tier team. So look out for him. And another kid on the lookout is our 182-pounder, Joe Coolis. And he is going to be a senior. He took third in the sectional last year, 31-8. He lost to my guy, Jarvis Eccles, and Mason Deal. Jarvis tore his shoulder during that match, and he had a pretty tough route at state too, went 0-1. But I think he had some tough competition. I heard he's a football player. If he stays healthy, he's a tough wrestler. He's going to be somebody to deal with. For him, it's maintaining health, and his skill set is there.
Steve, a little trivia for you. Do you know who Billy beat to win his state title?
Right. Say that again. I was already sweating when you said you were going to ask me a trivia question.
So Eric brought up Billy Prognewski, and I just double checked it because I thought I had the right idea. But do you know who Billy Prognewski beat to win his state title? It was in 2013, and I'll give you. It was my area. The area.
I don't remember what I had for breakfast, for crying out loud.
A man like me.
What do you got?
He beat Ben Thornton. It was Ben's
gotcha.
junior year. Ben lost twice, and the first one, his freshman year, was to Andrew Crone, and his junior year was to Prognewski.
You threw me off with your area, because when you said your area, I was thinking Boston. I didn't realize, I didn't make the transition to where you're living now.
For Purdue, am I thinking of the right guy?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Very nice.
Yeah, not a bad resume when those are your only two losses in your career.
Shane, for being an Illinois guy, you're very knowledgeable about Wisconsin wrestling. That's impressive.
I've been doing some research. Thank you.
The last team that we have up in this regional is Waukesha West, who placed fourth in the regional with 150 points. They return 12 of their stars and 139 points, and they bring back a couple of state qualifiers in Magnus Kawakanen at 113, CJ Greaser at 138, and also 3 sectional place winners.
Yeah, one of those sectional place winners is a guy that was one match from state. And Shane, this is a guy that one of your guys beat to basically go to that state tournament, 152 pounds. Devin Townsend, he lost to Jeremy Ingram from Milwaukee Bradley Tech, 14-12 in the semis. And basically, I know that nothing's for sure when you get to the finals in Division I, but basically, as I looked at the bracket, the winner of that one was going to the state tournament.
You're absolutely right, and that moment brings me such a bittersweet memory. We've talked about the greatness of the sectional event. I was on another mat. I'll go back to Evan Huxdorf from Muskego. That was where I have a guy lose by 1 point. His senior, his heart's broke. His family's consoling him, and then I look over on the other mat. I got a junior who's coming back in this 14-12 barn burner. So it was a really bittersweet moment. I was super happy for Jeremy. He's a kid who took fourth in our conference, which is a fairly weak conference, in his first year wrestling as a sophomore. And he did junior year. He made it to state. And those guys were two horses just going at it. Our guy had a little more heart at the end, but it was a toss-up. And I'm excited to watch that 152 group. I'm excited to watch them with the Greenfield kid come back and Mulvaney. They're athletes, and it could be a toss-up. Pick names off the hat.
Yeah, we could do a whole podcast. I think every coach that we've had on so far has talked about sectionals. The greatest day of the year is sectionals, but the worst day of the year is sectionals, because you got kids that are very excited, but you got kids that have worked their whole lives, and they just didn't have enough, and not any lack of effort at trying. It's just, it is what it is. It's the nature of the beast in the sport.
Yeah, they all wrestled hard. Props to all of those kids, definitely. Anybody that toes the line, even if you get pinned right away, I give you all the credit in the world. That's great. And for me to finish up with Waukesha West, I really like their coaching staff. They're friendly guys. They were going to do this. I forget what night it was, but they were just going to have big scrimmages all throughout the spring and summer. And I was going to take a bunch of kids there. Obviously, it changed with COVID, but they have a young staff who's hungry. They're looking to get better. CJ that they had, that 138-pounder, that guy's tough. He's always in the mix. He's going to be competing for a state medal title next year. Xavier Guerrero is another little guy that impressed me, and that's a team that should be on the rise.
Yeah, Waukesha West is super tough when you look at Grisar and I can't pronounce the last name of the 13-pounder, but I'll call him Magnus. When you watch those guys wrestle, they're just hammers out there. They are just tough, especially like Grisar. When you watch him wrestle, it's going to be a 6-minute battle, like a fight. And then you have the 45 and 52 punters coming back right around Grissar's weight. They practice together all the time. Like talked about earlier with Arrowhead, you can't help but get better when you're in a room with a guy like that every day. So they're definitely going to be tough and probably improving on what they have done in the past couple of years.
They have a mean banging hook. They're teaching a nice tie up over there.
And that brings us to our regional prediction. We'll see who goes first here.
T goes first. I hope T goes first.
I'm going first.
You guys got the coin?
Yeah, got the coin out.
I laughed one day. I was at my daughter's softball game. This was many years ago, 4 or 5 years ago, and I heard one girl say to the other girl, "Hey, what time is it?" And from my generation, one of our comebacks was when you asked somebody, "Hey, what time it was?" You'd say, "Hey, what time for you to watch?" Well, this one girl asked this girl, "Hey, what time is it?" And the other girl says, "Time for you to get a phone." And I just laughed at the change of the generations because now Teague's flipping coins on his phone on an app. And I said, where have we gone? We can't even flip a coin with an actual coin anymore.
Hey, you don't trust your memory. I don't trust my hand-eye coordination. So just playing to my strengths and weaknesses.
That's right.
So I got the first pick here. I just want to say right off the bat, I do think Arrowhead will probably take the regional title here. That's what I'm predicting anyways. Not only, as Eric brought up, they are bringing in a couple of good freshmen, as has been the pattern with them the last few years, but returning 10 back from a team that made state semifinals, and like we all talked about, they're just getting better as a team too. And I just think it's going to be tough to beat Arrowhead out of this regional. But on that same note, most of these teams here, 6 of the 8 teams are bringing back 10 or more starters. So that's going to make for a really fun regional Saturday there on an individual basis. I think that's going to be an awesome day to be a part of. And, of course, all those matches are then going to carry over to sectionals the next week. So I'm excited for this regional in general on an individual basis. And I have Arrowhead as my champ for that regional.
Yeah, and the notes that I made, Teague, I did write down this is a tough regional. I think this is the first preview we did up with Hudson, with Chris up in Hudson, I think that one had 4, if I remember right, 5 teams with full teams. And that was really the only regional in Division I that had that. And then the rest had 13, 14, 13, then 12. Nobody had below 11. This regional, you look at it, 3 full teams, 2 with 13, 1 with 12. So the numbers are really here. A lot of good teams, like you said, Waukesha West, Waukesha West and Pewaukee. If they're in a different regional, maybe they're slunging it out to be the champion. But I just think, same thing. And this is even without knowing that what you said about the couple freshmen that coming in that are studs. When you have 4 guys that are probably going to get you maximum points for sure out of a regional, it's tough to pick against them. So I'm going to go with Arrowhead as well.
Am I up after that, or?
Oh no, we
don't normally have coaches pick, but it's you guys.
You let Dale pick.
We did, but Dale did, and he knew that he was going to take some flack for it. We just don't want anybody looking at you guys going, "Hey, why didn't you pick me?" That type thing. But
they're already looking at me. I'm picking Arrowhead. Beat him. You want to be the man? Beat the man.
That's right.
Sorry, Eric. I didn't mean to jump in front of you.
No, you're good. If I had to pick, I would probably pick Arrowhead as well.
Nice. We won't let you guys pick your own regional. How's that sound? We'll make you abstain.
We'd probably just pick ourselves. So
confidence, I love it.
That's good.
And speaking of that regional, that's what we're going to jump into, and that's I gave Cody Andres from Lodi some crap for this, but Eric, looks like you pulled some strings as well. You jump into a new sectional, and you guys end up hosting the regional for it. So
we've hosted the regional every year since I can remember. We have a pretty large facility that can hold a lot of people, and it's just a good event space. So since I can remember, we've hosted a regional.
Hey, that's nice. Kind of gives you a little home advantage there.
A little bit. Actually, back in the day, they used to hold the WIA Team State Tournament at West Allis Central before they moved it to Madison.
Yeah, that was like 6 years, wasn't it, Eric?
Yeah, I don't know. I want to say early 2000s was one of the last years they did it because Central had a team, I think 2001 qualified for Team State, and it was at Central. So
that's crazy.
Yeah.
I can't imagine the atmosphere.
Oh yeah, they brought in bleachers from like the State Fair Park, like because we have a big field house already, and they put bleachers on each end, and it was insane. I was like 7 years old watching it.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Wow.
Yeah, the first year I know I drove up with one of my coaches or my dad, I can't remember, but it was 92, and I was up in Stevens Point. Stevens Point or Rapids, I can't remember, but I want to say the next year it went to 93 maybe, it went to West Allis Central, and then it was there until at least 99, if not 2000.
I would say like probably 2000, 2001 would have been one of the last years it was there.
Yeah, so as we kind of talked about, so West Allis Central does come in. Also, Hale comes in from a different sectional, and that moves the Cudahy Co-op and Pewaukee Ronald Reagan over to Sectional H, which we will be talking about in a few days. So that's the changes from that regional. The first team in this regional that we'll be looking at is Greenfield, who placed 5th with 98 points. They return 6 of their starters. They return Skylar Gill Howard, who was the runner-up at 220, probably one of the tournament darlings, I would say. Had a really great run to the finals and ran into a buzzsaw in Brooks Empey from Stoughton. But they also have sectional place winner Marcellus Satterfield coming back, along with 4 more sectional qualifiers.
You know, you talk about Skylar Gill Howard. He actually wrestled one of our guys first round at individual state, and I didn't really know much about him. Didn't really watch too much in that area, so I was just kind of scouting for our coaches and looking at different analyzing data, which I like to do. And I noticed that Skylar pins a lot of his kids very quickly, and he pins a lot of them in the first period. And I'm thinking, we had a pretty tough guy. We had a second-year wrestler out. He was a strong football player, Mika Gatuski, who came out as a junior and ended up qualifying for state and had Skylar first round. And I'm thinking, man, if we can just hold off, if we can just kind of hold off to the second period or third period, this guy's going to die. He has no, and that wasn't the case at all. He ended up pinning us in the first period, just a monster. But I watched him throughout that whole tournament, and I'm like, man, if this goes to the second period, he's not going to be able to make it. He did. He wrestled in battles, all obviously other than the finals, but that's against a strong MP. But this guy, I tell you what, he's the real deal, and heck, I would imagine, I don't know what weight class he's going to be at, but he's going to be a strong wrestler coming back as a senior.
Yeah, like you said, I think he is another kid that was just like a big, pretty good football player, and the coach got him out. I think he's a senior, so I think maybe his sophomore year was his first year wrestling. I don't think he's been wrestling very long, and even that year, I think he wrestled heavyweight, and did really well. I think he was third or fourth in the sectional his first year. Wrestling, and then goes on to make the state finals his second year wrestling. Pretty good, and that's got to feel good for Greenfield. I think that something like that will help get some more kids out for their program, and they do have some solid guys in that team. Their 152 pounder. He's really exciting to watch. He's had a great conference tournament in our conference at the Woodland. So yeah, I think they definitely have some things to build off there at Greenfield.
Greenfield's a team that we've been seeing quite a bit lately at Tech. I like what they're doing. I'll start off by obviously Skylar Gill Howard. Steve, I had a guy, Jacavion Williams. He took 3rd in that sectional. Actually, shout out to him. He just got his first win in a college tournament at York College in Nebraska. They wrestled live action last weekend. It was great, a duel in a tournament. But Sky had the same game plan. Let's tire this guy out, but he has a motor with all that muscle, and all prop to that kid. I heard he was actually in JV state the year before. I believe he might have won it. And just to get that many gains between the next year, it was amazing to see. Because I went up, there's not many black kids in the state I don't coach. So I had to go up and talk to this kid right away. Be like, hey, where you at? What you been doing? He was real nice, and he had a fun story. And Marcellus Satterfield as well. He was in that 152 group. And same with that kid from Waukesha West. My guy, he's right in there with the mix. It's going to be who puts in the most work in the off season. I know we said Waukesha's got some good training partners. It'll be fun to watch those kids shake out again for the next year. But definitely a team will get some athletes, and they're starting to get people to notice them.
Hey, Gene, can I ask you a question on that? You said you had a guy, he took 3rd at the sectional, and he's wrestling in college right now, right? That's York. That's a D3 college, right? here's my little plug for kids listening to this is that if you have a passion for wrestling and want to go on to wrestle at the next level, you can. It's we talked about it. Teague, I can't remember what sectional it was, but a young man who he was a sectional qualifier and he was going on to wrestle for Stevens Point. And I'm telling you guys, kids, listen to this. If you have a passion for wrestling, I didn't have a super stellar high school career, but I went on and did all right at Whitewater. And I watched guys walk into Whitewater all the time, and they were a state champ, a two-time state champ, and they'd wash out because they didn't have, if you have the passion for wrestling and you want to work hard and you want to keep on developing, some kids, let's be honest, some kids don't develop till the times they're a senior or a freshman in college. And don't look at your past career and say, man, I didn't go to state or I didn't win state. I can't wrestle in college. That's a bunch of junk. Kids, young men, and Coach Shane, you got a guy that's proven this. Is that if you have the passion and you want to work hard at the next level, you can go wrestle at the next level.
And I'd love to piggyback off that. I have a lot of experience myself as a wrestler. I was a guy who got recruited to go to Whitewater, and I thought I was going to the Wisconsin Badgers. I didn't know what D3 wrestling was, and my dad tricked me. I'm like, what is a Warhawk? So I was kind of thought I was too good. I fizzled out. I failed out of school. I had to get my life back in order. I eventually graduated with honors, and now I'm trying to help kids make those not make those mistakes. So if I could, I'll tell a story about this guy just to pump up anybody else that's listening. I met this young fella his sophomore year, and because you talked about him in a past episode, Liam Arnold from Rufus King was training in our City Kids program, and he's a heavyweight. We talk about how hard it is to get heavyweights partners. This kid beat up every coach in the city, and I'd wrestle him, but I'm 160. And this guy was our team manager. He was in the room at this time, never wrestled. He was too scared to wrestle. And I said, all right, you're going to go out there. You're going to be Liam's partner. Liam pounded this kid all the way from regionals to state. That season, he did freestyle Greco. It took him a while. I don't think he won his first match for about a year. But he kept showing up every day, worked his hardest, and now he's in college wrestling on a scholarship from starting sophomore year. And I'd ask his dad, have you ever seen him mad? He said, one time I took away his video game. He's kind of upset. He's a kid that's always smiling. And he really, if you love wrestling, that's what I think, especially at college, those hard workers beat out talent every day of the week. And it's mindset.
That's good stuff. That's why we coach for stuff like that. That's awesome. The next team that we have, are we on?
Bayview.
Bayview, thank you. So I got like lost in that story. That was crazy. Yeah, the next team that we have up is Milwaukee Bayview Lifelong Learning South St. Anthony Co-op. They placed 8th in the regional with 25 points, and they will be led by returning sectional qualifier Ulysses Vieira.
Now, Bayview is a team I see all the time. They're about a 5-minute drive. If you're an MMA fan, which I know we got a little crossover, you might have heard of Rob Smith. He did a lot of high-level fights. He fought Rampage Jackson. He's their coach there now. So he knows some good technique. His son, Peyton, was a match away from making state last year for Martin Luther, and he wrestled with our program, so we're familiar with them. And right now in the city, we're struggling with getting kids out. We're in virtual school, and they said we're not looking to return until February. So before, I could get kids in the hallway, and I read a book I got at the Wisconsin Coaches Convention. It said getting kids like muskie fishing. Now, I don't muskie fish, but I see it takes a lot of casts, and you might get 1,000 casts, you get one muskie. So I get 1,000 kids that reject me, but I might get one wrestler. And now it's hard over the virtual stuff, so that'll be a struggle for them. And while we're on the subject of city schools, I just want to let people aware of some of the issues that we face, because they're the same as some schools, but they're also different. And before I get into it, I'm not going to say I have the solutions to all these problems, but I'm going to try. And maybe somebody that hears this, if I tell people how dirty it is, they might want to do something about it. And there's a lot of areas we could need help. So I broke down, and some of you addressed it on the episode with Dale. He did a very good job of getting into some of this stuff. But my top things, the 6 of them, is number 1 is no feeders, family support, or our community support or family legacy. Like Eric's story is so beautiful. Like his whole family's wrestling. Like I have a 1-year-old son now, and he's been on the mat with me every month. He wrestles a little soup play dummy, so he'll be ready. But none of the kids that show up in my high school, they don't have that. It's not like Coleman. I heard I want to go see that statue you guys have talked about. Like they have these legacies. I know the names come back year after year. We don't have that. That's what I'd like to build. So that's somewhere we struggle. We're getting kids to start that freshman year and get them ready. And other teams face that too. The poorly funded, right now our busing is a huge issue. I've had to skip tournaments because buses don't show up. And now with this virus, we've had 3 bus companies liquidated, so we don't even know if we'll have busing when it goes back. And I had to drive kids to my own events, and I carry $5 million worth of insurance through USA Wrestling and other variances, and that's a lot for a coach, maybe one of the more in the state. The stigma in the city, like you said, it's a basketball town, so they say, oh, that's white people stuff, or, they go to places and nobody looks like them in the gym. So to get a kid to do that, it takes some trust and just to get them involved as something. And I'd say 95% of places we go to are great. They're accommodating. Once in a while, they give us free food or might give us a T-shirt, just make the kids feel welcome. But there is that racist element once in a while. And there's one school, I won't name them, they kicked us out of our tournament, but they just treated our kids horrible. We tried to wear 2-piece uniforms, and I brought out the rule book, and they argued me that said it wasn't in there. And just little barriers like that with hairnets and stuff that I'm glad are gone. Environmental stuff, like sometimes the kids, the family problems, which we all have. Elementary PE classes is hurting. We need kids to be developed with their sports. And the last one you kids talk about is scheduling, where I understand why people don't want to schedule city schools. When I was at Tech, I would call people up, hey, do you want to schedule a match? No, they'd say, no, my buddy's coaching the suburb. He calls the same tournament, he gets in. Sometimes they're unreliable, so you need to get a coach to put in that time. Like when I first got it from Bevilacqua, they would say, coach can't bring the team here. These people never met me, but they just think because I'm from Milwaukee, it's going to be some type of problem. So I understand the scheduling issues. But if you have an open, give these teams a chance. We're just trying to get out there and wrestle like everybody else. And I want to level the wrestling mat. Like you're to level the playing field. One of my goals is to level the wrestling mat and get more people involved and let them enjoy our great sport we love.
Yeah, Shane, if you don't mind if I piggyback off that a little bit.
Definitely.
So we're like West Allis, we're not city of Milwaukee, but we're the next city over. And, West South Central, we get a large open enrollment from Milwaukee. So we're not a city school, we're not in the city conference, but we're right there. And I even live in Milwaukee, so I definitely get everywhere he's coming from. And, we've maybe not like the scheduling things we face since, Central does have kind of a long history of wrestling at the school, but, with like the race stuff and different things like that, we face similar stuff, and like you said, I just want to be able to level the field. And I think, what Shane and Malcolm and, Roger, what you guys have done at City Kids and at Tech is awesome. We try to do stuff that's like, you think about like AWA and all these clubs, not that there's anything wrong with it, but it's cost an arm and a leg to go wrestle at AWA or Ringers or a lot of places like that. And even like camps, you're paying a couple $100 to go to a wrestling camp. Some things we try to do are in the summer. Obviously this didn't happen this year, but the summer before we had 10 Monday night clinics that we got people to come and just donate their time for free. And it was free to anybody that wanted to come wrestle Monday night. So, I think that's another issue that we struggle with is like the club scene, right? And I have one kid that wrestles club, like, he goes to Ringers. So getting kids to wrestle in the off season and not have to pay an arm and a leg to go do that. So like I said, I think what you guys are doing over at City Kids and at Tech and just the whole city of Milwaukee, I think you guys are doing an awesome job. So, keep up the good work.
I appreciate that. Just to close it out, one thing we do is we never turn away a kid because lack of money. Like we do charge for our program. There's a city price and a suburban price. So it's kind of, you can pay more, you do. And that's how balance things out. But if a kid comes in and they don't have any money, we're going to get you. You're going to mount match and you're going to do stuff to earn your keep. It's not going to be free, but we have somewhere to people to wrestle. And we've had a lot of Eric's wrestlers, and he is in a very similar situation. So I appreciate that.
Hey, I give you guys props just on, I think sometimes with issues, the first thing that you have to do is, bring them to light like you just did. So props to you for coming in prepared with that. And I think, Steve always talks about there's one or two moments on the podcast that people are going to remember from the podcast. And I think the dialogue that you two just had is going to be that moment. That was awesome to hear. And hopefully, it doesn't end up just being a conversation on the podcast. It's something that that eventually causes change. So thank you for bringing all that to light.
They're tough talks, and they could be uncomfortable at times, so I appreciate you guys offering a platform for this as well, and I want to make sure everyone knows, like, I'm not trying to play any victim here. Or I'm taking accountability for the mistakes we make, which is plenty of them, including myself. But I just want to let people know that this is out there, and thank you all for that.
The next team that we have up here is Milwaukee Bradley Tech, Carmen South, Arts, Juneau, who were the runner-ups in the regional with 162.5 points. From the regional lineup, I know, Steve, you have more information on the number of people who body fatted, but returning at 2 starters from the regional lineup and 37 points. They do lose state qualifiers, Jalen Connor and Jarvis Eccles, who qualified at 132 and 182 respectively. But they do return a state qualifier in Jeremy Ingram from that tough 152-pound sectional, and also sectional qualifier Marcus Finks.
Yeah, Coach, you had 3 state qualifiers, and think about this. Gonzalez at 160 had a 4-3 loss in the semis. I know just earlier we were talking about the joy and the pain of the sectionals, but he lost a close one in the semis, and then Williams lost a 4-2 sudden victory in the semis as well. So think about that. You were darn close to having 5 guys at individual state tournament. That's impressive.
Thank you. And I mean, when that group that just graduated, they came in with me when my first year as a head coach fully. I did the co-head coach before, and these kids, they just bought into what I was selling. And they would have a good plan with full belief will outbeat an excellent plan with halfway belief. And these kids, I just give them so much credit for believing in me. And we graduated 10 kids last year. 7 of them are wrestling in college right now. And most of them are on scholarship. And that just, we're giving them. And where I'm at a school, we have some of the most low academics in the state, very high. I mean, kids, I won't go into the problems, but we got murderers, all that type of stuff. Most kids from our school don't make it. So giving these kids, use wrestling as your tool to get out. It's not just basketball. Like, now they're believing it. We have 13 straight MPS dual titles, and we got 12 out of 13 conference tournament titles. So that's something we take big pride in, is being that boss of the city conference. I learned a big coaching lesson. So any young coaches out here, anybody, your bottom 4 people in a tournament matter more than your top 4. Because I used to count up champs. That year we lost to Marshall. We had 6 champions, individual, a bunch of bonus points, and they had 1 champion, and they beat us because they did all those little places, and a 4th place means so much more because only top 4 count in our conference than if you don't place. So I realized there that even though you got a bunch of kids with bracket boards, they're all saying we won, it's those last 4 that count. Our last 4 all got 0 points. We had some forfeits. So it was a big learning moment for me as a coach, and not count champs when you go into a tournament. Look at all the individual points, and it really helped me out and motivated me. Also, when I first got there, our first duel, we lost 0-84 to 2 Rivers. So I thought it couldn't get worse than that. And then I talked to another MPS coach who lost like that, and one of his kids threw his headgear. So I guess it does get worse. You can give up a penalty point. But I thought that was rock bottom. And we returned Jeremy, who's going to he can compete with anybody. He's putting in the work in the off season. He's training. And for me, it's going to be about getting kids out. If I can get some more kids out to believe in this online time, the wrestling stuff is fine. And I'll go into that with, actually I have a 6-pointed system, and wrestling is the 5th thing I do. And I took a lot of this from Jake Herbert. And my number 1 is I get the kids trusted and interested. I need to get them to trust me enough to walk in that wrestling room and just get interested in what it is and not say, like, what are these sweaty dudes doing rolling around? So when I get them in there, I want them to sweat, smile, and learn something. That's right away. Then I want them to enjoy the sport. That's number 2. Once you enjoy it, you start to make that commitment. Eventually you build the love for the sport. So now I got the kid coming. They're starting to love it. Number 3 is be a good person. When I first got to Tech, we had a lot of really high talent, like all these great kids. But you see, they didn't go on to do too much because your intangibles go. If you have all the titles and you're a bad person, I can't sell you to a college or a job, which is the next level. So you need to be that good person on and off the mat. 4, I'm going to build your basic athletic skills. Gymnastics, like I said, where that PE in the elementary is really not doing too much for various reasons we don't need to get into. I need to make the kids athletes. And then number 5, I teach them wrestling and mental technique. So all that stuff, wrestling is a small part of what I do. If I could get these kids showing up every day, having fun, being athletes, the wrestling stuff is easy. You could learn it. There's plenty of resources. You go to clinics. And number 6 is world domination, which I'm still working on. But that's my system. That's, I'm hoping to get some kids, get them involved in that. I'm unorthodox, like a funky guy. I do a lot of weird stuff. Like I wore a Russian hat, if you see like the Khabib fighter, and I pull it out in big dual meets to get the kids motivated. Like, oh, coach got his Russian hat. I'd have a fresh pair of Jordans. Like, oh, coach broke out the new Jordans in Milwaukee. Like, these are a big deal. They're like, people die over these shoes. So to wear them at wrestling meet, the kids all know, they get excited about it. I just do fun stuff like that for the kids and just try to make them enjoy it and expose the sport to more people. And if I could get the kids to come out, they'll get competitive, and that's what it's going to be about for me this year, is recruiting these kids online. If anybody's watching this, you have some help, I'm more than open for feedback, and let's try to all grow together.
Well, Coach, I got to tell you, one thing I saw with your kids, they bought into you, and they respect the heck out of you, and they're not afraid to go out and wrestle. When you may or may not remember this, but when you brought your guys over to our scrimmage in Fort Atkinson, one of my jobs was to find kids that didn't get a lot of matches and try to run around to coaches and say, hey, let's get this kid a match and this kid a match. And I went over to you and I said, hey, I got this kid who's I don't remember which team he was from, but he was a pretty darn good wrestler. And I asked you, I said, hey, I got this kid. He's a pretty darn good wrestler, and he only got one match today because nobody really matches up with him. And one of your boys from behind you overheard it, and I might have said 140 pounds, whatever the weight was, I can't remember. And he goes, I'll wrestle him, and he had no fear. He had, and I looked at your boy, and I think you had him ranked. Everybody gets a ranking. He was ranked a 2 and whatever, but he had no fear. He's like, yeah, I don't care. I'll wrestle him. So I love the buy-in your kid.
Yeah, that's the mindset you got to have. It's I add on one thing that I did this year, and I know the Wrightstown coach talked about it a lot, was we started saying a creed before practice. And once we did that and did it after, I was so happy to do it with how our season got shut down. So it was similar to theirs. I steal the free stuff Wrestling Mindset gives. I didn't buy the program, but they say I believe in myself. So that's number 1. I'm grateful for the opportunity to be able to wrestle, because the opposite of being depressed is grateful. So now you're happy to be healthy, just to be in the room and do it. I'm not afraid to make mistakes or lose, and that's where it goes to the point where Steve is. It's anybody, anywhere, anytime. Like I tell them, somebody's on your block, like they might get robbed on the way home. You can't choose to not wrestle that match. You got to do it. So you can't. If you turn away somebody that that's being scary, they don't look at that real nice. And the last part is I will never give up, and that's all I ask. I want a good effort, a good attitude, try to get 1% better, and that's it. That's my sauce.
Yeah, if I can just add on a little bit, like when I think of we're right, we haven't really, honestly, I don't know if we've seen you guys at a tournament besides, the state tournament at all since I've been here. But when I think of like city wrestling, the first team that comes to mind is Tech every year. Watching you guys wrestle anywhere, like you said, fearless, right? And listening to you talk, understand why 100%, right? They're buying in and they're going battle with everybody, which is awesome.
Can I add one last thing to close it off? I know I'm getting a lot of credit, but definitely I'll accept a little bit of it because I do have somewhat of an ego. But I know they talked about it was another city school, Marshall, that was called the City Dream Team of Coaches. And I'm going to challenge that, Dale. Maybe you're a little dated, but the 2 guys I got, they've been head coaches before. Malcolm was a head coach at Cudahy before he got there. He did some assisting at Oak Creek. And Corey Husher was a head coach at Custer and coached the state champs back in the day there. These guys could be head coaches at most other high schools in the area that they want to. We're all doing something special together. My athletic director, Bevilacqua, was the coach before me. So we're one of the only schools in the city where value wrestling and we're building something up. I want to get hats made, like Gable said. Like in Iowa we wrestle. I want them to say at Tech we wrestle. So when I walk in the school, they're like, oh, what, they wrestle here? What's wrestling? Before, one last thing, I had a big ladder in the room. I'm painting every year the championships we run. So I'm painting the new 2018 or whatever it was. New group of freshmen coming, like, all right, we're doing ladder matches today. And you just have to take a step back. You're like, no, that's not this type of wrestling. And but it's fun, and I do get a lot of support through along the way.
I know, leave it to my attention span to get this takeaway from. I'm glad you brought up a ladder match reference. I think we've somehow slipped like a WWE reference in almost all of our episodes. So
sorry, the guys that don't like that.
No, I love it. I went through 2 WWE phases in my life, so I'll take them whenever we bring them up on the show. The next team that we have up here is Pewaukee Hamilton Autobahn Technology. They placed 4th in the regional with 105 points. They return 6 of their starters, and they'll be led by returning sectional qualifiers Ethan Jong, Cedric Sanders, and Demetrius Hartfield.
And you said it, Ethan has been coming and doing the City Kids the whole time. He's a guy that if we would have had the freestyle in the Greco season, I think he would have came on a lot of people's radars. He's going to have some booms coming up next year. I'm trying to recruit the other kids to get there, and right now it's hard. A lot of people have picked up jobs and things, but Hamilton, they're a team that normally fields 14. They have a good school with a lot of kids, and I expect them to have a team, and if they can develop, hopefully Ethan teach some technique. They got a coach that's trying, which in the city says a lot. And I just like to see where they could grow. And they're a team. They're always dressed well, too. They get the best Rudis gear all the time. So I'm always jealous of that.
Yeah, Hamilton is. We go to their tournament every year, the individual tournament they host. And so we see them a couple times usually. They've definitely, at least since I've been the coach, improved every year they came on. They've added kids to the team. And last year they had a kid, I think that was he was a senior, first-year wrestler, came out, and he was pretty close to making the state tournament. He beat one of our seniors who had been wrestling his whole life. That was very tough.
170-pounder?
Yeah, he beat him 3-2 at the Hamilton tournament. So, they're doing something right over there that, they're able to get kids out and get talented kids out, and, they're just continuing to improve.
And I'd like to thank that young man for his service. He did sign up, and he's in the military now and that's great. He's hoping to pursue some wrestling further on down the line there as well. That was his first year, so he's another kid with a lot of talent, and I'm happy he's going to be defending our country.
The next team that we have up is Milwaukee Pulaski Carmen Southeast. The co-op placed 7th in the regional with 29 points. They do return both of their starters from last year, and they do have a sectional place winner coming back in Daniel Hansen.
Yeah, I was looking through Milwaukee Pulaski's got quite a history of wrestling. I know this River Valley website that we got brought our attention to. I can't get off the thing and take a look at it. But Milwaukee Pulaski, their history, they were at Team State in 1998 and 99, 17 individual titles, and rummaging through Teague and guys, take a look at this. Now, I don't know if these guys were brothers, but I'm going to bring you back to quite a few years ago. In 1953, Milwaukee Pulaski, I'm assuming, had brother state champs at 165 and 180 pounds. Peter and Paul, please forgive me on the pronunciation of this. I'm going to say Juskook is the last name. So I found that rummaging around. So, it's one of those schools, Teague, we've talked a lot, and coaches, we've talked a lot about programs that have had that history, and right now they're a little bit behind the 8 ball, so to speak, is use the expression, don't have the numbers. But, traditionally speaking, we talked to the Stoughton coaches, and they said you can't turn a program around in a year, but you can definitely turn a program around in 4 years if you get somebody with passion and heart into that program.
And I'll go off that is they have a new head coach now, Alex Hagler. He's a Tech alumni, so I try to support him as much as I can. And, yeah, he's going to know it's not going to be done in a day, and we need to get the kids to believe in, too, in that delayed gratification. To get good in wrestling is, we all know, a marathon, not a sprint. I like to describe like a little wrestling mountain. I tell the kids I'm a Sherpa. If you want to get to the top, talk to somebody that's been there before. So that's why I like Eric bringing in these good people to expose our kids to that is a big part of what we do. And in MPS, sometimes with so much red tape, you have to ask for forgiveness and not permission. Like, you just have to pull the trigger and go for it. And sometimes I do that. Sometimes it goes well. Sometimes it doesn't. But I like to be like a necktie, which, if you don't know, is kind of sharks, or I just go forward. I don't even look backwards. And sometimes it gets me in bad situations, and sometimes it helps. And in MPS, if you sit around and wait, you'll never get anything done. So if there's any young coaches or anybody who wants to be involved in wrestling, there's a lot of opportunity there. We're always looking for help. And this is a school that does have potential to grow. They got a school in there, Carmen, right now, one of the best academics in the state, very good parental support. So it's not your typical MPS school anymore. And what those kids need to look at is you're only a JV wrestler if you tell yourself that. 'Cause a lot of their guys are low level. They did JV for a little bit. So and I say that like a walk-on. Like, you're only a walk-on if you tell yourself that. You're a wrestler. You go out there and wrestle matches. So whatever level you're at, if you put that in your mindset, you go out and wrestle, they'll get some kids out. They've had some guys work in the off-season too. They're looking to get better as well. And, the history is there, where I mentioned Ed Kurth earlier. And when I came to Milwaukee and did the research, he was holding it down. It went to a coach I won't name who did a couple good years at Custer. Bevilacqua did Tech for about 10 years. And now I'm trying to be that next person. I want somebody to push me. So I hope these coaches, like everyone said, if they get better, I need to get better to beat them. So that's what I'm looking for, is that good competition. And I'm not going to say I'm good at all, because I like the Walter Payton quote, where if you're good, you'll tell everybody. If they're great, they'll tell you. I'll wait till people tell me. But, if you want to get some stuff in Milwaukee, we can need help. That's a place that you can build. And, they got the history to build a lot of the MPS schools. I go to the tournament every year. Milwaukee South doesn't even have a team anymore. And the kids will look up. They're like, hey, South Milwaukee won a lot. They're like, no, that's South Division right down the block. They're like, what? They wrestle? So it's just it's cool to know. There was a big history in the 50s and stuff. So why not do it again?
Yeah, for sure. Some of they don't have a lot of numbers, right? I'm looking at their roster from last year, but I remember a few of the kids they did have. They have some tough kids there. 95, they've got a maybe 113 pounder was just a tough, scrappy kid. Stuff to build off. And like you said, they got a coach in there. Now hopefully, he can trust the process and start turning that thing around there.
The next team that we have up here is one of the two newcomers to the sectional, West Allis Central, who placed 6th in their regional last year with 111 points. They return 7 of their starters. They do lose place winner Amir Blevins, who placed 5th at 195, but they'll be led by returning sectional qualifier Adam Hollenbeck.
Yeah, Coach, we'll let you take away a little bit and talk about your program, but I was looking at Blevins, and he got his money's worth down at state. He had 6 matches, and heck of a ride. I'm sure it was fun for you. And we already talked a little bit about the history. I know I look at West Allis Central, and I just always have known that to be one of the top programs in the state. I mean, obviously you guys host one of the toughest one-day tournaments there is in Wisconsin with the Ed Stack, but Team State 2000 and 2010, and talk about that. I mean, you're a young guy. What was it like taking over a program that's one of the powers in the state of Wisconsin?
Yeah, first I'm going to give a shout out to Amir that you guys just mentioned. Shane knows him. He wrestled at City Kids a little bit as well. But yeah, he was an awesome. He actually transferred to our team last year, so that was the first I had met Amir. I knew him because we competed against him, but that was the first I get to meet him, and he was awesome for our program and our team, to see a lot of our young guys, to see a guy that works like that and goes and competes as hard as he does. And if anybody saw his 5th place match at the state tournament last year, he was down 5-2 with a minute to go, and he gets 3 takedowns and cuts the kid with 30 seconds to go to be down by 1, and gets a takedown with 10 seconds left to win it. All in the 3rd period. So that was probably the most exciting match I've ever been in the corner for. So he's at Iowa Lakes right now, wrestling at Iowa Lakes Community College. So hoping good things come for him. But yeah, definitely rich history at Central a little bit. You talked about Ed Stack. He started the program back in 1950s, 1960s. He was the first coach, and he coached until the day he died. He died in 2014. He was an assistant coach for the other. So I'm only the 6th coach in Central's history. So he was the assistant coach for everybody after him. And then, with the field house at Central is named after him. He has a tournament named after him, like we talked about. So just being able to know him and be around him, and what he kind of meant to not only Central wrestling, but to the whole state, really, was awesome to be able to know and just hear from him. So it was a great experience. I wrestled at Central. We had some pretty good teams while I was there. You mentioned the 2010 Team State team. That would have been my sophomore year. We were Team State semifinals. I think we lost to Milton in the semifinals that year. But yeah, just like you said, kind of a long tradition of solid wrestling at Central over the years. And I think a lot of it comes down to we do have a solid feeder program. We've had that for a while. It's kind of getting rebuilt again. It was always the West Allis, West Milwaukee, our district club, and kids could go anywhere once they left that club, right, for high school. And they kind of split the club up. They drew lines in our district of where you had to go to school, Hale or Central, depending on where you live. So that kind of split up our wrestling club. And then we had to go, they made 2 separate clubs, Junior Huskies, Junior Bulldogs. So we're just kind of starting to get to this year and next year where we're going to see, kids who have been in Junior Bulldogs for 4, 5, 6 years coming into our program. So that's exciting for me, knowing that, I've been here 4 years, and most of the kids I get start at the middle school in 8th grade, or they start their freshman year. So it'll be nice to kind of see that payoff come in the next few years. So I'm excited for that. I am excited for this season. I'm glad we just even have the opportunity to wrestle at all, and with whatever capacity it is. I hope we get more than dual meets, and I hope we get a regional, sectional, state tournament, and all that stuff. But whatever capacity we get, I'm just glad that we're able to wrestle this year. We've got a couple of seniors. One, Angelo Rivera, was the only freshman on the team my first year as the head coach. So it's been exciting to see him kind of grow and, hopefully get an opportunity to qualify for the state meet. And then a couple other guys, like you talked about, Adam Hollenbeck. He's a junior. Just a tough kid. Would probably be right around 45, 52, maybe adding into that mix of that 45, 52 in our sectional, making that even tougher than it is already. And then another guy that I just want to shout out a little bit is Gus Dominguez. He was a sophomore last year, wrestled kind of undersized at 182 for us, and got hurt in the middle of the year and had to sit out just as he was kind of really coming on. And then as soon as he was able to wrestle again, he's been, as much as possible on the mat and in the weight room and doing everything he can to get better. So that's a kid that I'm excited to see wrestle this year. And, like I said, I'm just super excited to have the opportunity to wrestle this year in whatever capacity it will be.
Yeah, and Teague, you talk about wrestling rooms, and I know you guys got a brand new, pretty cool wrestling room. Central's wrestling room is pretty cool itself, ain't it, Eric?
Yeah, we have a decent sized room. It's about 2.5 mats. So yeah, it's nice. It's a little older now, a little getting on the old side, but it's still, it does the job. And I coached at Lacrosse Central for a year, and their wrestling room, when I coached there, was basically like a hallway. They fit half a mat into the room. So coming from there to here, I'm like, you guys don't know how good you have it to be in a room of this size and have the things we have. So.
And I'll say I can say the thing. I'm happy to have the competition in and welcome Eric, and that's fun. But we would enjoy beating up on Cudahy and Reagan too. We're definitely, the West Allis schools are beefing up this conference. They're bringing some more heat. I mean, they are a program. Where at Reagan, they've only been wrestling a few years. Cudahy, they might have had 6 head coaches in 6 years. I heard Eric say he was the 6th head coach in their history. Like that says a lot. I'm glad that he's in the area. You can hear the passion that he's bringing. And just to touch back on Amir, I did get to meet him. When I met him, he was going to Pewaukee Hamilton, and not to get too much into his life, but he was looking for some direction. And once he got into that West Allis, he really thrived. And just to see him at the state tournament, he looked different. His body composition changed. He was holding his head up. So whatever Eric did, it definitely worked. And I was super proud. Like, the kids were happy to see that as well. And within your 4 years, that could be your I call it the HSE, we'll say for this podcast, the holy poop effect, where they see a kid that's on their team. Like for me, it was Jalen Connor. The first time he went to state, he pinned a 3-time returner, Mason French. He was down by like 10 points and threw him in the last 10 seconds. The kids in my school are like, wow, we can do it. Amir can be that plug. I wouldn't be surprised to see West Allis. Like, they're going to be somebody you can tend to for the years coming. I'm happy to have Eric there. And another guy, just to say, what relates to the program is I see Tyus White. He's a graduate. We get to train at Pura Vida MMA. They've opened up their doors for us. and he's one of the best up-and-coming martial artists, so it's fun to be able to watch him in the Cole Center. So now I'll be able to watch him in a ring once that's approved in Wisconsin again, and it's great to have West Allis in the area. They breed tough kids, and I think Eric's only going to make them better, and it's a great team to have.
Thanks, appreciate it. We're excited to be in and be able to compete with you guys. Like I said before, I don't think we've ever seen you in a competition since I've been.
No, we used to wrestle the Summerfest duels every year, which would be a lot of fun. But now, we really don't see each other too much during the season.
Yeah.
The next team that we have up here is the other West Allis school, West Allis Nathan Hale. They placed fourth in the West Allis Central Regional with 146.5 points. They returned 9 of their starters and 132.5 of those points. They have a couple of state qualifiers coming back in Jacob Hoxie, who qualified at 106, and Brady Mako, who qualified at 220. And they do have 2 sectional place winners coming back in Frank Wagner and Easton Schurer.
Yeah, Frank Wagner, 113 pounds, Steve. We've talked about that in different sectional previews, but he had one of those hardest emotional days of being a high school wrestler in Division I. Is that he was in the finals, lost a close one in the finals, and then he had a wrestle back, lost to Jordan Prom from Marquette. So it's I tell you what, one of those not growing up in D1, growing up in a different division where, hey, and you make the finals in Division 2 and 3, you know for sure you're going to state. It's just a matter of you got to battle out and figure out if you're going as first, second, or third man. Division 1, just because you make the finals doesn't mean you're going to state. And for this young man here, Frank Wagner, he was in the finals and then had to wrestle for his life to go to state. But the good news is for Frank is he's coming back next year.
Yeah, Hale's got a solid group of kids coming. They got a decent amount of seniors, I think, on that team. And, Hoxie, I think he is from like Idaho or something, somewhere out west. He transferred to Hale last year, so they got a nice pickup in him with just kind of randomly transferring to West Allis, Wisconsin. I'm not sure how that happens, but so that was good for them. And then Brady Mako, obviously Peyton, his older brother, was a multiple-time state champ. He's a tough kid. He's a super athletic 220-pounder. You see the kid at tournaments, and during the break, he's hitting backflips and back handsprings and stuff, just like crazy athletic for how big he is. So definitely they'll add in, be a tough team adding into that regional.
Yeah, I'm just like West Allis Central. They're another team that's going to come in that's upping the talent level, making it a little more competitive, which is always good. The 106-pounder, I'm not sure how to pronounce his name, Jacob. How do you say that, Eric?
I think it's Hoxie or Hoxie.
So I see he's another one of those kids where with the incoming teams, he'll be in a group of 3 state qualifiers at 106 if they're all in the same weight class. So that'll be interesting to see how he shakes out with the kids that were in the division last year. And now after you said about the gymnastics of Mako, I'm excited to see him because that goes back to building athletes. And if you're at 220 and you can do all that type of stuff, he's on my radar to watch now.
And we do have one team left for these previews, and I don't know what the odds of this happening are, but started the show off with Arrowhead, who is a regional champ, and we're ending the show with Whitnall Greendale, who was last year's regional champ. So pretty good for the bookend in this show. Last year, Whitnall Greendale was first in the regional with 241 points. They lost to Arrowhead 56-24 at team sectionals. They return 9 of their starters from that team. They do lose 285-pound state qualifier Luke Larenth, but they return Dylan Paulos, who qualified for state at 113, Gavin Cagle, who qualified at 120, and 2 more wrestlers who placed third at sectionals.
Yeah, Cagle lost a couple of close ones at state, 3-2 and 8-5. And you talked about those sectional returners, Chris Dobby and Will Schreiner. Both of them took third. They're one match from states and returned those 2 guys with their 2 returning state qualifiers, and they should be a pretty powerful team this year.
Yeah, this team, we were looking to compete with them last year. They got the best of us. All props to them, and congratulations on the regional title. And they're deep. They're going to have a lot of kids in every weight class. They come in like an army. And I didn't know too much about this school until because we're new to this regional. We used to be with the Kenosha schools, the Burlingtons out in the southeast. And there's a lot of people that were upset that these 2 schools were co-op, and they feel they should have a good enough resources and population where they could field a competitive team on their own. but they're together, and that makes them dangerous. They get a lot of kids. They're a funky squad, and you got to be prepared for them.
Yeah, Whitnall Greendale definitely the past 3-4 years has definitely been on a good trajectory. They're pretty tough over there. They got, I think, with their 13 and 20 pounder who are state qualifiers, I think they're going to be juniors. They got a pretty solid senior class there at Whitnall. So a bunch of tough kids. Their co-head coaches both do a really good job. So yeah, it'd be exciting to compete with them at the regional.
And that's it for all the team previews. So we got.
We're going with the app.
A couple more.
Ready for the app?
Yeah, a couple more picks. That's you, Steve. You're first.
Oh, great. Make me pick first with two coaches looking at me. That's a tough one. I have a feeling I'm going to be bulletin board material for you guys. So I apologize up front with that. But I didn't really know which way I was going to go with this one. That's why I was hoping T got to go first. But you guys convinced me when you talked about numbers, because this team, you return 9 guys. That's not super impressive. But what really got me was they returned 8 sectional qualifiers, 2 of which were at state that are returning, 2 guys that were almost to state. 8 sectional qualifiers doesn't do it for you either until you got the numbers to back it up. And hearing you guys both talk that they have a lot of numbers to fill in those weight classes. And in this region, I think it is returners, but it's also your numbers game as well. So I'm going to go with the returning champs, Whitnall Greendale.
I'm glad you got to make yourself look like the bad guy first, Steve. So eases it a little bit for me, but yeah, I think just that same logic. I think with the matter of depth and returning the most people coming off of a regional title, it's hard to pick against Whitnall Greendale. I would have to give them the pick in this regional as well, but I think. I agree with what you guys said, though, about especially with the West Allis schools coming in. It's this regional is definitely on the up and up, and I think we're going to see it get tougher as the years go on. But right now, I think this is still Whitnall Greendale's regional to lose for next year at least.
Yeah, I'm not mad at that. Smart pick.
I was going to say, Coach Eric and Shane, what Teague and I call pretty much happens 100% of the time. So there's no, you might as well not even work at trying to knock these teams off because we're that good with our picks. I'm just messing with you because I know that you guys know it's just picks, and you guys are going to go and get on the mat and prepare to take that regional championship.
That's right.
We're just here to stir the pot. That's it.
That's right. We're good at it
right now. We've all been quarantined. Stir it up.
Yeah, we need some motivation, we need some fuel.
I flipped Steve, and I got the first pick for the team set.
I forgot that we had to make another pick.
Yep. So we got it'd be a rematch of last year's team sectional in which Arrowhead won 56-24, and when Coach Luloff talks about winning a duel, he says step 1, find a way to win at least 7 matches, and I think Arrowhead. They have 4 pretty much locks that could win any of their matches, and I think Arrowhead's more likely to win 7, if not more, matches in that duel. And then also just talking about their hammers, they just pack on bonus points like no other. When we dueled them at Team State last year, we all agreed as coaches that, all right, we're both going to score at least 36 points. Now, where are we going to cut off points from? They're guys who it seems like they can just cradle from anywhere. I don't know how they do it, kind of know how they do it, but it's just crazy to actually watch it in action. But I would have to give Arrowhead the edge here if that team sectional rematch comes to fruition. But I also just want to say real quick is individually when I was going through this, I saw there's a lot of sectional qualifiers, a lot of sectional place winners coming back. You're bringing in the West Allis schools. I'm really excited to see it. We're probably going to see a lot of sectional rematches from last year on an individual scale during that sectional Saturday. So I just think it's going to be an absolute dogfight throughout that entire day. And one of my favorite rounds of wrestling is sectional semifinals in Division I on that Saturday. So I think team-wise, Arrowhead wins this, but individual-wise, there's a lot of that could go so many ways for who qualifies. So you guys definitely have an exciting sectional, to say the least.
Yeah, there's not a lot to add to that, Teague. I'm going with the same pick, and I think Arrowhead is a team that not only do they have their hammers, their studs that they've always had, but they've backed it up with, they've got a, what do you call that?
Depth.
Supporting cast. They got a supporting cast to go along with them. Enough to the point where, they're a team that, I think in the past they've qualified for state and teams just kind of knew that, they got their hammers and they're not going to, they're not going to really do much damage down there. I think they're to a point where they're going to start competing for bringing home one of those, a piece of hardware, one of those gold or silver guys.
That's what we got for this preview. So we have one sectional preview left after this. I just want to say, Eric and Shane, thank you guys so much for coming on. We had a lot of great talks on here. It's awesome to hear. I love hearing the different perspectives from all the coaches around the state. You guys provided great perspectives tonight, so thank you for that.
Yeah.
I'll just add on. Oh, sorry, Eric. I'll just add on quick. Both of you guys, I'm impressed, man. You're both younger coaches, and you got heart and you got passion. And there's every coach knows how to teach a double leg and a half Nelson, but not every coach has heart and passion, and you guys both have that.
Thank you, and I'll just thank you guys for this platform. I appreciate you with a little bit stirring the pot, because that's what I love. Being an MPS now, I have to thrive in chaos. So the more controversial and wild it gets, it's more fun for the listeners. Great job there. And with that, I think I was off air. Forgive me if I spoke about this before, but if you see me in the corners, a lot of people, you see me in the gym, you love me or you hate me. I'm going to coach hard, and sometimes I'm going to celebrate hard, because for the kids we deal with, you're not always just the coach. Sometimes you're the fans because their parents don't show up. You're the counselor. You got to feel all coaches do this. So if you see me like, going hard, I never cheer against somebody. I never say like, that kid's not doing something. These are high school kids. I want everybody to improve. But when my kids do something good, I celebrate hard, maybe a little too hard. But that's just me. And I appreciate you guys letting me get my passion, talk some wrestling.
Yeah, thanks for having us on there. This was awesome, and I love what you guys are doing this podcast for the state of Wisconsin wrestling. It's really interesting to hear about all the teams, and like you said, hear the perspective of all the other coaches and all over the state, because it is kind of different, right? When you think about all the different regionals and sections of the state, it's really cool to hear, and I think you guys are doing an awesome job here with this podcast, and it's great. So, but thanks for having us on. It was awesome to be able to be on here and talk and give my 2 cents on wrestling in our area for what that matters. But
and I'm going to say the Wisconsin accents on you guys coming from not a Wisconsinite are amazing. I wouldn't want the podcast any other way, and especially when you get them real coaches from up north. I love that stuff. Like, they might hear like, who's this guy talk? Because I sound a little different, but I love the Wisconsin accent. That's great. And I also encourage everybody to get into the international styles. That's one of my favorite parts about wrestling. I appreciate it's a folk style podcast, but honestly, that's the most boring style for me. My kids love Greco-Roman. We're excited for that. We want to throw people. Freestyle is cool too, but I'd encourage your kids to try those other styles, because there's a lot of stuff out there, and it's really fun in the off season. That's where, especially wrestling in high school, our kids get to get better by being on different teams and traveling, and that's a lot of fun. So I'd encourage your kids, if you want to grow your program, it's going to happen in freestyle and Greco, because it's easier to get there. Some kids have been doing the folk style forever. Not a lot of people start off doing the Greco right away. So get your kids involved with that. You might get some more success, and then you just get your hands-on access to them more often. So I'd encourage those international styles with your teams.
Well, thank you guys for the support. I mean, you've been not just coming on the podcast, you've been supporting us on social media platforms as well, so we appreciate that. But that's all we have. That's all we have for this episode. On behalf of Steve and myself, have a great night, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you for watching. As always, peace and much love to you.